The word reality is bandied about with little or no thought to its deeper meaning. There are many different contexts, but this podcast is focused on science. Philosophers like Descartes cautioned us to not accept a thing without the prior indication of facts or evidence. Nothing becomes fact until it is proved from more fundamental principles. Incidentally, this is how courts are supposed to work, but generally operate without evidence or reason. Academically, Descartes and Aristotle made perfect sense. Society has a problem with this in terms of education, which must do two things. One, there must be a reasonable baseline of knowledge absorbed by society to gauge the credibility of unfamiliar conjecture. Two, if one does not possess this baseline, he or she must have both the discipline and know-how for obtaining the necessary background. Unfortunately, society is susceptible to both the distribution and uptake of false information. Our lack of intellectual discipline presents several problems. First are those who accept information at face value, then defend it by any means other than reason. This includes all of the logical fallacies plus censorship, emotional appeals, shunning or shaming in the cancel culture, and ultimately violence. Second, we have large segments who know they've been lied to for decades by so-called authority figures. This is how we get flat earthers or those who believe the moon landings were fake. Some are so jaded that they believe only the opposite. Several people have told me that they don't like math or science, are not good at it, and are proud of the fact. Usually these same people are spouting the slogan, "Trust the science." It is difficult explaining to someone lacking a reasonable background in science just how something works. There are too many intervening steps to be explained first. Many cannot interpret simple graphs which are supposed to illustrate concepts easier. This does not imply a lack of intelligence, but a lack of interest or focus. The Nobel Prize-winning physicist Leon Lederman addressed us at Montana State University. One person from the audience asked, "Have you ever seen an electron?" This is an interesting question on many levels. He responded to that audience question with his own, which was, "Have you ever seen the president?" I don't know if the student asking about electrons was a science major, but it doesn't matter. Lederman's point was that the vast majority believe that there is a president of the United States, though they've never seen or met him in person. They might have seen the president on television. Why would they trust the television if they didn't understand how one works? Televisions or iPhones may show video of the president and require large numbers of electrons to make that happen. They also require electromagnetic radiation for cellular or Wi-Fi, touch screens, liquid crystal or plasma displays, batteries, and the list goes on. Someone asking Dr. Lederman if he'd seen an electron may doubt they exist. At the same time, he or she would insist that the president does exist, proven with the help of all those electrons. A physics student absorbs the science, but also much of the history of that science. That is, we're made familiar with all the famous researchers and experiments, which prove the existence of molecules, atoms, protons, and electrons. We've even done several of the experiments ourselves. It's understandable that those without such exposure might not believe in electrons or even know that they are running around inside their laptops and smartphones. We take notice of things like batteries or touchscreens only when they stop working. In exploring reality, the rabbit hole goes as deep as we like. A fanciful notion circulating of late is that our entire universe could be a simulation run in the computer of some more powerful being. In other words, everything we experience is part of a sophisticated algorithm. A highly complex version of the game of life is postulated. Those simulations model biological, economic, or any evolving system. I know of no way to prove such a notion nor any reason to pay people to think about it. Physics, chemistry, and other hard sciences, in line with mathematics, have come up with a comprehensive set of physical laws. Confidence in these laws depends upon experiment or observation. Even quantum mechanics has a set of rules, though often they're based on probability. Science requires a constant feedback between theory and observation to be consistent and provide predictability. Is there a chance that we live in a simulation? Sure. but there are many things those laws cannot explain. These are love, hate, joy, pain, and any number of intangible emotions experienced by humans or animals, which we know to be very real. The philosophical problem I have with the simulation theory is that it sounds too much like determinism. Many religious sects take determinism or fate as a given. If this is the case, then how could sin ever exist? If the universe, as many believed in the 17th century, runs like a great clock, then where is free will? Even Einstein said God does not play dice with the universe. One aspect of quantum mechanics I really love is that it is steeped in probability and uncertainty. The ability to predict precisely, as in the world of Isaac Newton, was once again in question. That, to me, is proof of free will. Then others believe there are multiple realities. This is called the multiverse, multi-universe, or the many worlds theory. These would be universes determined by quantum mechanics. The description is as follows. We know we live in a universe composed of matter and energy. On the quantum level, i.e. the scale of photons, electrons, protons, neutrons, and a couple hundred other subatomic particles, events are not predictable for individual components, or even small units like molecules. The wave-like nature of mass or energy allows behavior like tunneling. Tunneling on a microscopic level is possible but incredibly unlikely. Tunneling on a macroscopic scale is possible but incredibly unlikely. An example would be your cat standing in the kitchen one moment, then instantaneously appearing in the garage. Cats don't do this, but electrons do. This same wave-like behavior makes the path of such a single particle unpredictable. The double slit experiment is the most famous demonstration. Finally, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle states that both values for the pair energy and time, or position and momentum, for a particle cannot be determined precisely. If you measure only one value, the value of the other is uncertain. That's a lot of background for those already familiar with quantum mechanics. Many worlds theory, or the multiverse, would be the resulting outcome of all quantum mechanical possibilities. That is, each time a photon or electron travels one way instead of another, a neutron decays into an electron and proton or does not, each time an atom splits or does not, etc., then one or more new realities are created in which that particle did something else. Imagine how many particles there are in the universe, and that these paths are being split that many times every picosecond for the last 14 billion years. That's how many separate universes there would be. Each universe carries on with no knowledge of the others. There are countless versions of you in many of them. There are universes where dinosaurs were not killed off by a meteor strike, and there are universes where no version of Earth ever existed. Of course, this is great fodder for science fiction, where they are called parallel universes. The original Star Trek series made use of this idea several times. One of my favorite episodes is called Mirror Mirror, in which the Good Federation landing party is switched with their evil counterparts. Another idea is that our universe is just one of a possibly infinite number. There's speculation that ours has made contact with an adjacent universe as evidenced by a bruise in the cosmic microwave background. This bruise is analogous to separate universes making contact, rather like one soap bubble against another. The bruise indicates the contact area. It is proposed that such alternate universes have their own set of laws, which may be very different from ours. We take heart that the laws we've discovered appear to hold throughout the universe we live in, whether it is in our own solar system or millions of light years away. If we did discover an adjacent universe, could we exist there? Another excellent episode of the original Star Trek is the alternative factor, in which a portal is discovered to a universe consisting almost entirely of antimatter. Venturing into another universe could be incredibly dangerous. There are hybrid virtual realities from Hollywood, such as Tron, The Lawnmower Man, or The Matrix. These require strong participation of the subjects in conjunction with an overlay of stimulus provided by the algorithms. As we recall, in the Matrix, humans were conditioned from birth to accept reality as defined by the computer. Even then, there were some who questioned that reality and managed to escape. Further, some understood perfectly well it was an illusion, but chose to live in it anyway. So the obvious question is reality what we make it? The vast majority will tell you reality is what you're forced to accept or suffer grave consequences. A feature of some of these stories lies in the alternative reality being largely of the subject's own making. This is evidenced by characters believing or not believing the reality presented to them. Neo could slow or stop bullets knowing they could not harm him. Captain Kirk knew Doc Holliday's bullets would not harm him if they were not real, but kill if he gave in to the illusion. Humans taking a big part in shaping our reality is perhaps what is behind psychedelic or hallucinogenic drugs. Perhaps there are realities not seen by the vast majority of people every day. Chemical aid opens up doors not previously seen, the doors of perception. One could say the same of a religious experience or instant of creative genius. Isaac Newton had just such a problem with the Royal Society after demonstrating that white light was composed of the colors of the rainbow. He showed them experimental proof by creating a wheel with the three primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, as wedges of a wheel. Then he spun the wheel quickly. It could only be seen as white. The exalted members of the Royal Society did not believe in experiment. They believed that great insights could only come from God or some great reservoir of knowledge. No experiment needed. One science fiction story which brings this home is The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. It was discovered that the main character could alter reality simply by imagining it to be so. Of course, we can imagine the dire consequences of such power. The X-Files did a mini version of this involving a genie. What I remember the most about it is a question toward the end. What if everyone has this power and reality is being yanked out from under us all the time? The corollary would be that reality is changed not by one or a few, but by a collective consciousness. It is my contention that outside of the physical world we suffer from a collective consciousness or shared reality. The Matrix is in large part a retelling of Plato's parable of the cave. Those confined inside are forbidden to look outside the cave. Those on the outside appear only as shadows on the cave wall. They are not known as people like themselves. The only way to find out is by escaping the cave, like Neo or Morpheus, escaping the computer simulation of the Matrix. Today we live in a cave or matrix of our own making. We are confined to a reality constructed by government, so-called news or entertainment, and their corporate lackeys. Public schools, universities, bureaucrats, and social media build a cage around us. Our thoughts are limited to what is taught or promoted by politicians. Anyone who differs with the narrative will be stifled or cut off in social media. Corporate entities such as PayPal and major banks, or professors may have their funding yanked. If one's following is great enough, he or she may suffer bogus criminal action or the trumped-up violence of angry, ignorant mobs.